Hi, and welcome to the English 2 TRS Unit 5 Connecting Messages Across Literary, Informational, and Argumentative Texts Curriculum Preview video. I'm Chris Drury with Curriculum and Instruction. I support English 2 and English 3 and pretty much anybody in secondary ELA who'd like to talk to me. As we look at this unit, it has 3 performance assessments. The first one asks you to get texts from the literary, informational, and argumentative genres and group them together on the same topic and have students experience those and analyze those. It goes more in depth in the IFD, of course, than just this, and I highly recommend you read through that and look at it. There is a second performance assessment. It is listed as optional. I would say either use it as an extension for the students who are advanced and really need to do extra things, or if you feel like you need to go into more than just 3 texts, this is a good option for that. It asks students to work as a group to self-select digital and multimodal literary texts, argumentative and informational texts. So I think it's really key that they use multimodal things. That doesn't mean that you can't use those in the first performance assessment. I think it's entirely appropriate to say, you know what, we've done a lot of informational texts. We're going to do a TED Talk or a YouTube video that's appropriate, or an episode of a newscast that's appropriate. And that works fine. So feel free to use that. I would encourage you to, of course, to find one with a transcript. Every TED Talk does have a transcript in multiple languages, so that can be helpful. But consider those as options, especially as our students are struggling to engage in the digital platform we're forced into with the COVID-19 2020 situation we've been in. Performance assessment 3. They're going to write 2 multimodal texts, one literary and one argumentative, or one informational. They get to choose. I think it's okay for you as a teacher, especially if you feel like going into this argumentative essay, they have not nailed down the argumentative techniques, to say, we're going to choose argumentative, or I'm going to encourage you to choose argumentative, or only those students who have mastered argumentative may choose informational instead of argumentative. All those are entirely your choices. I think you're perfectly within the realm of reason to do that. I like the idea of them doing a multimodal text. This gives them the opportunity, especially for your students who just hate pen and paper or hate typing up in Google Docs. If they go through and make a Google Slides presentation, or they make a YouTube video, or some kind of product, a text that's not what we would consider a traditional text, it still makes them go through the writing process. It still makes them use evidence. It still makes them use rhetorical devices. It still asks them to prove their point and have a point from somewhere. They still have to think about organization. They still go through the writing process. They're just not putting words to paper. And I think that for a student who is not connecting to putting words to paper, going through that process in a way that might be different for them might help them get to the put words to paper point. And then, of course, you could always just go like, hey, now I'm going to ask you to either redo your benchmark essay, or I'm going to look close at your benchmark essay to make sure that you're applying those things you looked at in your writing performance assessment as you wrote a multimodal text. As you build this unit, you might want to be thinking about, hey, what is star paired in the past? What should I be spending a lot of time on? And we do see a lot of expository. Our students have scored well on paired passages in the past, and this might be why. They might feel comfortable with expository. Literary nonfiction comes in second at about 3, and I think fiction is underneath that, fiction and persuasion at twice. It is worth noting that for the first time in all the years of STAR testing, that last year we paired poetry in the paired passages, and so that has shown up. And in this document that is linked in the companion document, if you want to look at other paired passages at grades lower than English 2, there is that information there for you as well. Okay, so what's crucial for our students in this unit? I don't have time to do all those things. My students aren't engaging in all those things. I'm struggling to get my students to do anything more than multiple choice. Those are all things that I've heard, and I believe them very much, and I completely understand. Or at least I hope I completely understand. I probably will never completely understand what our kids are going through or what you're going through as teachers. But that said, the questions that they need to really be focusing on, what they really get after on a lot of the STAR tests and what they really look at, no matter what the genre is why did the author do that? And you'll see on the CAs, I have coded so many questions as just 2.4F inferencing. That's because previously on STAR, those would have been coded as the genre because we had all those different genre standards and figure 19D, right? But the problem is, or figure 19B. But the problem is that we don't have dual coding now. And the district has said to me like, hey, just code one thing. So author's purpose was never coded before, but I think that's probably what those questions would be coded as, because the inference that I'm asking students to do is, why did the author return to describing the setting here? Why did the author choose to use this particular word, or what word describes this? Or, hey, why is the author using this particular kind of evidence? And you can find all those kinds of question stems that have shown up on STAR in the open-ended questions document that's on the STAR resources. I've talked about that before in our content conversations, and I can show you in content conversations if you don't know where that is. But anything that gets to, why is the author doing what they're doing in this particular instance? It's great that students can say, hey, that's figurative language. But if they don't know why the author is using figurative language, if they don't know why that builds to theme or why that builds to thesis, then they're just code calling and saying that's what it is at this point. I don't know why they're doing it. And that's why they're not scoring well on the STAR test, because the STAR test is asking them to analyze how is that happening and what's going on with that. So that's really it. I would highly encourage you to continue to use notice and note, any kind of close reading strategy, any kind of strategy that the students can use to help them drive to that deeper meaning without you asking them the questions point blank, with them going in saying, hey, I noticed this in the text. And then when the author does that, this is why. And notice and note is really great for that. So I hope that you're using some things like that. You talk, read, talk, write can also be really great. If you have any questions, you can email me. And I also have office hours posted on Curriculum Central. My email is jdrury@aisd.net.